Lab, where on today's channel we'll be taking you through 4 of our favourite chip strategies for the remainder of the season and taking you through which of those is our favourite. But to start with, let's kick us off with what we know already. In Game Week 25 we've got 4 teams at double, including Arsenal, Liverpool, Wolves and Everton. And the blanking teams are Man United, Brentford, Brighton and Newcastle. Arsenal are definitely those with the better fixture, with Leicester away and Everton at home, followed closely by Liverpool with Crystal Palace away and Wolves at home. Both Wolves and Everton have a tricky fixture in their double game week, with Wolves playing Liverpool away as one of theirs, and Everton playing Arsenal away, so it's probably best not to get loads of those assets. In Game Week 27, we also have 2 fixtures confirmed for Brentford and Brighton. Brentford play both Everton away and Southampton away, whereas Brighton play Leeds away and Crystal Palace at home. Both of those seem great fixtures for really hot teams at the moment, so there'll be definitely opportunity to optimise those game weeks. So now we have a picture of some of the shorter term blank double game week and double game weeks that have been announced. We can also see further afield to see what other fixtures might be announced. And some good work from Ben Crellin shows us exactly where some blanks and doubles may fall. So straight after Game Week 27, where we have Brentford and Brighton doubling, we have the biggest blank of the season in Game Week 28, where 8 to 10 teams blank, followed directly straight away by Game Week 29 with the biggest double of the season, with 10 plus teams doubling. We don't know yet which of those teams fall within the blanks or the double in Game Week 28 and 29, but we should find out between Game Week 25 and 26, so that we should make plans soon. Later on in the season, we also have another blank in Game Week 32 with 4 to 8 teams blanking, and then other doubles in Game Week 34 with 8 plus teams doubling, and Game Week 37 with 6 plus teams doubling. And throughout all of these, we may have an additional 1 to 2 fixtures put in other game weeks, such as the one we've got in Game Week 27 with Brentford and Brighton. All of this does mean that we really need to be really considered with our chip strategy and how we approach these game weeks, and this will all be team dependent, but you can certainly start to think about what strategies are best to approach all of these blanks and doubles and optimise the points you can make. So we've got 4 chip strategies for you here that you may want to consider with your team at the moment, and the first of which is the earliest wildcard. So to wildcard in Game Week 27 when there's double fixtures for Brentford and Brighton, followed by a free hit in Game Week 28 where 8 to 10 teams blank, and then a bench boost if it works out in Game Week 29 where 10 plus teams double. You may also want to consider using this bench boost further down the line in Game Week 34 or 37 when we find out which teams double in which week. The advantage of this is that you can do a wildcard in Game Week 27 and load up on Brentford and Brighton assets, and then in Game Week 29 you'll have a good idea already of what teams double that you could also make sure you've loaded up on in your wildcard. The second chip strategy that we'll talk through is similar. The second chip strategy leaves the wildcard to a bit later down the line. So in this one you can free hit in Game Week 28 where you've got 8 to 10 blanking teams. The reason for this is that in Game Week 27 you could load up on Brighton, Brentford assets or any more and manage transfers through to the double in Game Week 29 when those fixtures get announced between Game Week 25 to 26. You can then use the transfers after Game Week 29 to build towards a good team in blank Game Week 32 and then wildcard in Game Week 33 to set yourself up for the rest of the season with bigger doubles in 34 and 37. This also means you can bench boost in 34, which could be advantageous after using your wildcard in 33 to set yourself up for this. The third chip strategy is pretty similar, just moving the free hit a week later in double game week 29 to maximise the teams at double. You could use free transfers between game weeks 23 to game weeks 28 to make sure you've got enough teams in the blank game week, and use the free hit in a more maximal effect in game week 29 where a lot of teams might double. Again, you can then use your transfers from game weeks 30 to 32 to build towards the blank, and wildcard in 33 with your bench boost further down the line. Our final chip strategy is one where we move the wildcard slightly earlier in game week 29 for the double where 10 plus teams double. From now until game week 28 you can use your transfers towards the blank to make sure you've got enough teams playing and dead end your team. That then means you can wildcard straight out in game week 29 and maximise on the teams that play in that double. You can then use your free hit in blank game week 32 to almost ignore it and plan your transfers all the way up to game week 34, maximising any doubles that have come up or the double in 34 itself, and bench boost in that game week or in 37. So those are the 4 chip strategies that we think are the best, and each of them are team dependent on which one might suit your team more. So these 4 chip strategies are the ones that we think will be the most commonly used and the best to make the most of all the chips you have available. Now some of these could be tweaked depending on your team, and you could move the free hit earlier, later, or bench boost at a different time, or wildcard earlier or later depending on how your team looks. But I think these will get the most out of your chips and allow you to set up the rest of the team for the rest of the season. So what are the pros and cons of these 4 strategies? So in strategy 1, where we wildcard early in game week 27, it does use the wildcard and free hit in conjunction for maximum impact, and if we can bench boost in game week 29, it's the optimal plan using all of them together. The wildcard is also used early in the season, so it does mean we have more time to pay it off, but there is a downside to that for the rest of the season, for about 10 game weeks, you have to manage with just transfers alone. Especially when there's doubles and blanks upcoming, this could be a tricky situation. Some of the other disadvantages that we see with this strategy is that we're using a free hit in game week 28. It's a blank game week, and it doesn't really optimise that individual chip by using it in a double game week, for example, where we can get all of the best players. And finally, if you can't bench boost in 29 because the fixtures don't add up, bench boosting in 34 could leave us late down the line. You'd have to manage about 7 game weeks just on free transfers alone, and you'll have spread your money fairly thin across the whole squad. So strategy 2, where we free hit in 28 in the blank game week and wildcard in 33, also has quite a lot of positives. So wildcard in game week 33 can take the most advantage of the double game weeks in 34 and 37, and you can use your transfers between 30 to 32 to manage the blank and dead end your team in game week 32. The bench boost also has the most maximum impact. Using it in 34 the week after wildcard means we can plan accordingly and optimise that chip. And the free hit in game week 28 will help with planning. It means you can use transfers in game weeks 27 to build towards game week 29 in the double, and it means that's a problem solved. The disadvantages though are again that we're using the free hit in a blank game week, and we are wildcarding late in the season. Late in the season does mean there's less time for the wildcard to pay off, although we are using it with a bench boost, which will have a good impact. Strategy 3 has similar pros. The wildcard is used later in the season, and again we can use transfers to dead end our team into blank game week 32. The free hit in 29 is probably better than 28 in that you can maximise this chip individually, but for a lot of teams it may not be the best solution, and it may impact your free hit game week 28 team. Again, the disadvantages here are that you're wildcarding later in the season, and that you won't be able to navigate any of the earlier season without chips. And finally in strategy 4, where you wildcard in 29, this does have a good impact as you can wildcard in a double game week where there'll be lots of optimal teams to look out for. A free hit in 32 also takes that problem out of the equation. Where there'll be a blank game week, you can just focus on transfers that build towards any doubles that are upcoming and the big doubles in 34 and 37. The disadvantages though are that you do use this free hit in a blank again, so you're not really optimising that individual game week, and it could be possible to build a good game week 29 team with just free transfers alone. There's some single game week fixtures that week, such as Arsenal against Leeds, that do look like attractive fixtures, and I worry that we may transfer some of these out of our team with the wildcard, and it might not be a good long-term solution. But wildcarding early in 29 does mean that you have more of an impact and more of a time to allow the wildcard to pay off. So at the moment it probably is quite a good strategy. For my personal team at the moment, my favourite strategies are probably strategy 2 and strategy 4. Free hitting in 28 solves an issue where if I was to use strategy 2 I could focus on transfers around the double in 27 and 29, and then I could wildcard in 33, dead ending my team in blank game week 32. The reservation I do have is that this is quite late in the season, and whether it'll be easier and better to use my wildcard earlier to plan for the remainder of the season rather than struggle on through. Strategy 4 is one that I'm very heavily considering as well. Wildcarding in 29 again does mean that I can maximise that double and use transfers towards game week 28 at the moment, where it looks like a troublesome blank game week. I don't really think the fixtures in 28 are that good for a free hit, and the free hit team probably wouldn't score quite highly, so I think that could be one that is definitely a preferable strategy. As I mentioned, a lot of this will be decided between game weeks 25 and 26, when we get an idea of which teams double and blank in the future, but it's good to keep an open mind as to what your strategy is, as it then may influence the transfers you make in the coming game weeks. I do hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you found it useful, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It takes a lot of time to make this video, and it'd be great to feel some support and feedback on whether it's been useful. Soon we'll also be releasing videos covering other topics, such as trip strategy when more fixtures do get announced, and we'll be looking at some of the optimal free hits and wildcard teams that you could be using in the upcoming game weeks. So if you liked that, please do subscribe, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.